One thing you do on a pretty consistent basis is confirm whether the treasure is still out there. We won't have that confirmation, it seems.
There are some problems that come with this treasure hunt.
Okay.
No, that's not true. There's a way to know, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
So what we will be going over in part 2 is some new information that verifies part 1, that the treasure chest was found in 2019 by Jack. He didn't recover and retrieve the treasure chest until 2020. The second portion is the find, and immediately thereafter, June 5th, and shortly thereafter, lots of details of what happened. Then the aftermath. Everything that has happened basically up until now. Just some key highlights, not all the details. And then part 3. Will part 3 happen? And what is happening in our Chase community? So where did we lead off in part 1? Part 1, Jack had devised a plan. If he finds the treasure chest, as he did in 2019, he would leave it, get his Puerto Rican tax exemption status, move there, as Forrest left him a shit show. And Jack didn't think that things were thought through by Forrest with the IRS or Yellowstone National Park. So part 1 is more evidence that has rolled in from different tubers and other sources regarding 2019, the evidence that the treasure chest was actually discovered in 2019.
Now, you have said on several occasions you're stepping back from the treasure hunt, kind of taking a break or a moment from all of the emails and everything that you have out there. You've been re-engaged recently with many scrapbooks and press, etc.
Well, I'm about to run out of things to think about.
Jack is quoted saying, "Helped by logic, my experience on the ground at the location, and a hint in the book, I figured out what the blaze was in late 2018. In Dan Barbarisi's book, Jack describes aspects of the treasure chest find. He says he saw the dragon bracelet in a plastic bag filled with water. The other important items were in bags as well, brimming with water. As you can see from this picture, there is no water. There are no bags brimming with water. So this would suggest, was the water from 2019 when Jack found the treasure chest, or when he recovered it in 2020? Credit Packer Jack. Another quote out of Dan Barbarisi's book. Then he saw the key to the treasure chest, badly rusted up against one of the gold coins, covered in spider webs. It had all clearly been here a long time. He saw the olive jar, said to contain Fenn's autobiography. He took it out, read the few words he could. They were about things related to Fenn's life. He put it back amid the water-logged bags and grime-covered coins and web-filled chests. Water-logged bags. We're looking at bags here in the picture provided, and we see there is not a substantial amount of water. There might be a little bit, maybe giving the benefit of the doubt, but waterlogged. This just doesn't match the photos provided from the find, or I should say, the retrieval in 2020. Obviously, I didn't find it on my first few trips in 2018, so I had to face the prospect that the treasure probably wasn't there. I tried my best to consider other spots, but in late 2018, I had another aha moment and encountered enough new circumstantial evidence that I felt the total body of evidence I had collected to that point definitely proves that was where Forrest wanted to die, as daunting as it was to keep looking in a spot that had been a loser for me. He's focusing only on 2018. Jack says the treasure chest is filthy, covered in mud, Ziploc bags filled with water. And then we see the pictures that Jack himself revealed. I don't see the treasure chest being filthy, covered in mud, or the Ziploc bags filled with water. Perhaps this was from the 2019 discovery rather than the retrieval. Credit, Treasure Warriors. We have 2 quotes from Jack. The first is, "It did help protect the interior of my pack from getting filthy from the treasure." He was referencing the IKEA bag he used. The second, "The treasure was filthy and got dirt all over the interior I had it in. I spent a night at the hotel on my way to New Mexico and wiped dirt off everything with the hotel towels." The top picture is the picture of the filthy and muddy treasure chest that was waterlogged. On the lower right is the picture from when Forrest and Jack after it had been cleaned. These do not seem substantially different to me.
I don't want them to get that committed. It should not take over your life, and it has taken over at least one person's life, and that's not good. It's a hobby. Take it up and get what you can out of it. If you don't find the treasure, you're going to find a lot of, your reward's going to come from every angle.
I always found this quote of Forrest odd. Several had lost their lives. Several had overstepped in making this treasure hunt too much of than just a hobby. We had discussed them over the years. But he here in November of 2019 discussed only one. Why? Was he referring to Jack? I figured out the location where he wished to die, and thus where the treasure was, back in 2018. But it took me many months to figure out the exact spot. Many months, or almost 2 years later, Jack. More evidence of a 2019 discovery. This probably is the most significant slip-up that Jack has ever given. He was asked by a searcher if you had arrived at the spot only to realize you weren't the first one there and the chest was gone, would you answer this question the same way about keeping the place private? His answer was, "I knew where it was, so if someone else found it, I wouldn't need to see a chest-sized depression to know where it was. I've thought about whether I would go on the internet and point out the evidence at the point blah, blah, blah." Let's go back to the beginning of that response. I knew where it was, so if someone else found it, I wouldn't need to see a chest-sized depression to know where it was. He's not saying he knew the general area. He's not saying he needed many, many more days. He knew where it was down to the exact spot, the chest-sized depression. This was shocking to me, and this was in responses of one of the Jack Gets Mail.
The final location of the treasure chest, where it's where that special spot to you?
That's up to the person that finds it, and if he says he doesn't want anybody to know in a million years, I would not tell anyone.
Do you mind if he does tell everyone?
It's his decision.
Okay, we've beat a dead horse. Let's now move into the second part. The second part of this ending focuses around Jack and Forrest coming together on June 5th and the things immediately thereafter. So let's discuss June 5th and 6th. Friday night, Jack was in the park less than 90 minutes or so to get those pictures and go back and get explicit permission. That was pretty quick. He knew the exact spot by that time. Jack goes back to retrieve the treasure chest Saturday morning, calls Forrest, and is driving down to Santa Fe. Matt, smell the sunshine, arrives at Forrest, not wearing his mask, where there was an explosion, and he was escorted out. Matt denies this publicly. However, this is outlined and validated in Dan Barbarisi's book. Saturday evening, Forrest announces via a number of email groups that the treasure chest has been found. Cynthia receives the name friend group email, with one of the daughters responding, "What? Is this real?" On June 6th, it was obvious that Forrest had not included his family in the announcement, nor key searchers. Dale was shocked. Cynthia was shocked. We all were. Forrest was alone, and in my opinion, he was protecting his family. He knew things would be very challenging very quickly. So Jack discovers again the treasure chest on Friday the 5th and gets explicit permission from Forrest. On the 6th, he recovers the chest and heads to Santa Fe. By Monday, the lawsuits get filed, and Forrest must protect himself. The rules were laid down. The treasure chest must never be at Forrest's home, and Forrest must document the solve, in which he would archive it prior to meeting Jack. So Jack must wait. He waits many days until he actually gets to meet Forrest. As Jack has noted, there's no legal precedence for this treasure chest and the discovery and the find. The finder has already left searchers to die and get arrested, and all the other mayhem between 2019 and 2020. Things have gone to a very unique situation. 4 days later, in a lawyer's office, Jack and Forrest finally meet. It was awkward, and the pictures are very telling. The treasure chest, to me, is not dramatically different between in situ and what was presented to Forrest, contrary to Jack's own words. So many stories were exchanged in that meeting. Jack shares with Forrest that he marked over 1,000 trees. And here's a quote from one of the public medium articles with Jack. "I think my issue in 2018 was I didn't know what blaze I was looking for, and I wasn't systematic enough. I fixed those before the 2019 search season. But the limiting factor after was deciding that because I couldn't find the blaze I was looking for, forces of nature had probably damaged or destroyed it at some point before I got there. So he did need to take a more systematic approach in 2019 when he finally discovered the treasure."
Bracelet in a pool game. So I told myself, if I put that bracelet in this treasure chest, that's part of me. And that was the last thing I put in. I closed the lid and I said, yeah, that's okay. I'm part of the thing from now on.
Anyway, about the bracelet, do you still want the bracelet back?
Sure, it's a $350 bracelet. It's the only cheap thing in there. And it's the only silver piece. I mean, everything else is gold, and here's a silver bracelet with turquoise. It's not an expensive piece of rock like an emerald or something. But sure, I mean, I'd like to have that thing back.
Okay.
But I think a lot of it depends on how it comes back, too. And I don't want to dwell on that, but sure, I mean,
So when
I don't want to get it in the mail. I'd like for somebody, the people that finds the treasure, I would like for him to hand it to me and let's talk about it and warm up to it a little bit. I mean, it can get very abstract if you're not careful.
The bracelet story definitely gets abstract. That's a discussion for another day. So back to the meeting where Jack finds out about the scissors and string. Here's a question from a searcher. What was the purpose of the scissors inside the treasure chest? Jack responds, Forrest did not know how those ended up in there. Well, did you answer the question? Do you know the purpose? And did you discuss that with Forrest? I think so, since he discussed it with the searcher after the find. Let's discuss. Forrest told me he ran a line when I visited him 8/28/2020, 10 days before he died. Not that that has anything to do with it. He said he keeps it in the top right drawer of his desk. Schuyler refers to it as the fishing line. Another person who clarified my misnomer also has seen it in person in the drawer when Forrest told him his story of the day when he hid the treasure. I hope this all comes out someday by the family because it is truly a remarkable story for an 80-year-old man to have pulled it off. Cynthia then posts on a different day, I need to make a clarification about this past week's visit to Santa Fe. I think I previously referred to the 150-foot string/line that Forrest used when he hid the chest, making 2 trips and using this line so he could find the spot the second trip as lining. It was backing. Kpro and I are not fishing people. The guy is, and explained there's a leader and the line and his backing that goes around the reel. I actually don't give a rat's ass what it is. What matters is the length. In other words, only 150 feet from the river's edge, or wherever Forrest Fenn tied that string to when he walked into the forest 150 feet. The Wet Creek and Island are wrong. I went and Googled it, and here are the elements of fly fishing in the setup of the line or string. I'm not sure of the exact nomenclature, but you can see here the leader, the tippet, the fish line, and the backing. Fits exactly from the story we were told. Other topics at this meeting and what happens next. Jack questions the inventory of the contents. Where is the frog and the emerald ring? He does head to Forrest's home before he leaves and heads home to Puerto Rico. Section 3 of the Part 2 video, The Aftermath. The chess game begins. Jack has left for Puerto Rico. Forrest asked Jack to visit. He even asked him to move to Santa Fe. We already knew he moved all the way to Puerto Rico over this treasure chest. Jack says that's not possible. But Kpro, Cynthia, and Matt all have separate visits with Forrest after the find but before his passing. During Cynthia's visit, she gets information on the string. She asked to see the bracelet, and Forrest said he can't talk about that. Forrest asked Cynthia to be patient. During Kpro's visit, no bracelet is seen, and Forrest asked Kpro to be patient.
So why do you engage with searchers? You gave a couple of good examples. You're hearing some aspiring stories.
Why do I engage with them? That's the only thing I have left.
I believe Forrest was going to make things right. We had discussed him wanting to give an interview. He asked for all of us to be patient for so long, but he said now it's time. He promised he would give all the answers. He said this was except the 9 clues in the final location. Everything else was on the table. Questions were being generated, and Forrest wanted us as searchers to have closure. That was within his control, and he was going to do right by us. This interview was scheduled for the weekend after the Fenn finale. All the questions that had been provided to Forrest as feelers to ensure we were preparing properly were all accepted. Forrest passes away the day after the Fenn finale, 4 days before the interview was scheduled to take place. So where in the process is the treasure chest sale now? Here's a post recently from Cynthia. The latest update I got from this past weekend is that all the items are being appraised individually by groups specific to the item. In other words, the group appraising the old jewelry, like the dragon bracelet, are not the same as the people appraising the coins. Apparently, the coins are the most difficult to appraise. There will be a live auction, maybe as soon as next month. In my opinion, it would be awesome if the chest and contents are sold piecemeal, as is currently most likely. Could a billionaire step in prior to that and buy the chest and contents in its entirety? I don't know. And I will say, thank goodness for Heritage. Other auction houses didn't want a part of this mess.
Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are never what they seem. I see myself as an interested observer at this point, a bystander.
Part 3. Coming soon? There's definitely more to reveal, but the World Series of Fenn and the treasure chest sale may take a priority, but we're still determining next steps. There's still a lot of this chase that needs closure, but it seems like this is coming to an end. Thank you to Forrest. I truly now know you were trying to do right by your family, the community, and the finder. It was so challenging for you. I had no idea. I now understand, and thank you.